Men, would you rather a girl that just says, I'm fine, even if she's not, or sends an essay explaining exactly how she's feeling?
So when I've posted the short version of this video, I got what I was expecting from a lot of the men in the comment section. Great, my tripod's causing problems again. Yeah, but a lot of men would rather receive a novel, but there is always a catch to this. Men want you to speak up about what's hurting you or what makes you upset. They don't want to play that stupid silent treatment or guessing games. They also don't want you to be building resentment behind the scenes because you didn't speak up. But also, I've noticed what some women do is it's an emotional essay. That's why you see those long paragraphs. And if a man is at work, I mean, he probably will gradually read it because he cares about you, but at the same time, that's emotional flooding. And there's also this thing called kitchen sinking where you stack on all the issues in your relationship in one go. If you have a habit of doing that, you want to avoid doing that. Bring up one thing at a time. And I know sometimes for us ladies, we want to reference examples to, increase the context of what we're trying to get at, but try to limit that one, because if he constantly feels like you're bringing up stuff from the past and he feels like he fixed it and you guys should have moved on from it, he's gonna feel really exhausted and annoyed that you're constantly bringing up the same thing. So while yes, men want you to explain how you're feeling, there's a big difference between saying, hey, it bothered me when you went out with your friends for 16 hours without letting me know in advance. And it's like this huge novel thing where you're completely venting and unloading on him. That's why I do think as women, we need to treat like our relationships and then our friendships a little bit differently. They're not the same thing. Women tend to feel better after they vent, and that's why you see a lot of girlfriends together sit and vent with each other, and that's great and wonderful because that's what helps us. But for men, they don't always process things the same way. So sometimes when you're venting to him like that or sending novels, it's exhausting. And he's like, okay, why do I have all this homework? A lot of men are practical. It's like, okay, how do I fix this? So if you could even tell him exactly what he needs to do to fix it, love that. A lot of men love it. And what I've noticed is if you're like emotionally flooded, sometimes you say things you don't mean. Sometimes you blow up on him. That can be unacceptable, and sometimes that can even get to the point where it's a bit abusive. So if you need time to calm down, that's valid. You can tell him, hey, I'm upset about blank, but I need some time to cool down. And then go out for a run, go out and do something you enjoy, go out for a coffee, whatever it is to calm yourself down before you bring up the issue can make a massive difference. Because when you talk down to a man, when you make him feel badly about himself, he shuts down. And then also, he doesn't feel respected. For men, feeling respected and admired by you is a big one for him. So if you don't want to erode your relationship, you want to avoid doing that. Also, I've noticed some women get mad because you send him this paragraph with 20 things he did wrong, and then he only replies to one or two things. And then you get mad at that because you feel invalidated. You feel like he's not listening to you. And sometimes a man is legitimately sitting there like, I don't know I know I did everything wrong, but what specific thing is she wanting fixed? What specific thing is she talking about right now? So if you have a habit of going off on tangents, I'm guilty of that sometimes, you need to bring it back to the core issue that you want addressed. And then again, like I said, bring up possible solutions that are reasonable for him to actually be able to perform, that will make you happy, that will help you release any resentment you have. You need to communicate that, because sometimes when we just go blah and just blow up on him, he doesn't know exactly what you're trying to get at. He cannot read your mind. You might be talking about one specific core issue. Maybe you don't feel desired by him or whatever. And you turn it into this novel thing where you're bringing up 5,000 other issues. And he's sitting there confused like, what is she getting at here? So if you simply say, I don't feel desired in this relationship, maybe give an example or two so he knows specifically what behaviors you're talking about, it makes it easier for him to address it. And also, if you can use wording that doesn't directly blame him for everything, because like sometimes we say, you don't listen to me, instead of, you seemed like you weren't listening to me, or you seemed like you were stressed out and maybe your mind was on something else. Like, you can reword it in a nicer way where you're not directly attacking him, because sometimes when people feel attacked, they immediately become defensive. And so instead of hearing your thoughts and feelings, he just feels like he needs to defend himself. or you never, that's a big one. You want to avoid absolutes. You never listen to me. That's not true. He's listened to you before. You're not giving him credit for all the times he has listened to you. You could say, sometimes I don't feel like you listen to me. That sounds better because you're saying sometimes. And then you're saying I feel rather than you don't. You don't listen to me. Because that sounds more like an accusation. And while we're all guilty of like wording things incorrectly at times, sometimes when you do that, you get better results overall. But yeah, like for a lot of men, that was an easy question to answer. They'll take the essay over you being quiet any day, especially because you being quiet is not usually you being quiet. Your attitude changes, you seem grumpy, and then he's sitting there like, there's something wrong, I just don't know what it is. And then it stresses him out longer. When I've noticed sometimes when women do that, it's as simple as you guys were out for a drive and he drove past Starbucks and you really wanted a drink and he didn't think to offer or stop, when you really could have just been like, can we stop at Starbucks and get a drink? And then he'll be like, yeah, and he'll pull into the drive-thru or whatever. It's like, it could have been that easy. And then, I mean, there's tons of locations. Like, if it was something like that, you wanted a drink, it's like, he could literally pull over at the next location and get you your drink. So again, with being quiet and not saying what you want, silent treatments, getting pissy with him, it doesn't work long term.